Hey, Happy New Year's. Welcome to Third Man in the Ring. I'm glad you guys jumped on. We're gonna have a great interview today. Push the link, subscribe to Third Man in the Ring, tell your friends. But today, I'm gonna start at the top of all the officials, in my opinion, the best referee in the world, Jack Reiss. This guy's done a ton of fights. He's our mentor, personal friend of mine. We've been all over the world together. And I got a few questions for him, but let me just get sincere here and talk about Jack. This is a guy that's really helped me a lot. He's a good friend. He's helped me in some tight spots. He critiques us. He trains us. He has over 800 fights, guys. That speaks for itself. Over 100 title fights. So right now I want to introduce Jack Reiss. Come on in, Jack. Thank you, bro.
Thanks for that great introduction, man.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure to put on.
There you go. Telling the truth, though, bro. So,
Thank
Jack,
you. Appreciate it.
tell the fans a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and you know what? Before he starts, guys, I just want to tell you, if anybody needs an interpreter for the New York accent, reach out, and I'll get somebody to interpret. But go ahead, Jack. A little humor there.
Well, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and Brooklyn has lots of different parts to it. And the neighborhood I was born into was a place called Bensonhurst. A lot of great people came out of there, and then I ended up in Coney Island, and I was really raised up in Coney Island. And it was a lower middle class to really just a lower class neighborhood, really humble beginnings. My father died when I was a young boy, and I was one of those latchkey kids. You know, my mother gave me a key, and I was coming and going since I was 8 years old. And played sports, you know, a lot of ice hockey when I was growing up, and then I found martial arts, and I got into combative sports, martial arts and boxing. And at about 23 years old, I felt like I was kind of going nowhere. I was drifting. I thought I was a full contact amateur kickboxer.
Well, and there you go, fans. Some of you guys say, hey, these referees don't know how it is to fight. There it is. He's fought before. Well, go ahead, Jack.
I fought plenty, and I got a lot of guys that are still alive today that you could talk to and find out and stuff. But then at 23, like I said, I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life, and I came out to California for 2 weeks. Yeah. 2 weeks has turned into 43 years, and I was very, very fortunate. When I got out here, I stumbled from job to job and ended up getting on with the LA City Fire Department. Did 31 years with the LA City Fire Department, retired as a captain in 2011. And while I was on the fire department, you know, we have the police and fire games, and somebody offered me an opportunity to punch some cops in the head in a boxing match. And I took it, and you know, Mike Beltran should know that I beat that sheriff bad.
There you go. You heard that, Mike.
And all kidding aside, it was a great organization. What we did for the police and fire at the Olympic Games and all that stuff, and we raised a lot of money for the City of Hope. It was called the Fight for Life in Los Angeles, and it was a lot of fun. And Mark Relier, he fought the same night I fought. That's how Mark and I met. And then I actually got into the reffing, and then we went back and gave back. And
let me cut you off real quick. Did you guys know that he went to 9/11 and he helped on the Twin Towers, guys? And you know, that in itself, you know, I appreciate it. I thank you for your service, and man, the devastation they've seen out there. But sorry to interrupt. You know, really appreciate you, Jack.
Ray, that was an honor that I was chosen to get sent back that week, and I ended up spending 2 weeks there right after the buildings collapsed. And you know, the saddest thing about that is in your mind when you're getting on that plane and you know you don't know what to expect, and you're going into a war zone and stuff. You're thinking you're going to go rescue people. And as soon as my whole team, the team I was with, as soon as we got there, we realized it wasn't a rescue operation. It was more of a recovery operation because there was nobody coming out of that thing alive. But I was honored to be chosen and honored to have gone there.
And we thank you for that. We really do, man.
No, man, it was my honor. So anyway, when I was on the fire department, like I said, they had played ice hockey for the fire department and had this boxing team, and I was on the boxing team and then went back and helped and stuff. And I always had a dream to be a professional athlete or be involved in professional sports somehow.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a pro boxing ref many, many years before I ever did it. But you'll understand this because we've discussed this kind of stuff before. I always talked myself out of it. I always made up some kind of excuse of why I wasn't going to be able to do it, and I never did it. And then, I don't know, I just finally talked myself into it, and I went for this. And I also tried to be work for the Kings, LA Kings. I was making phone calls and knocking on doors and see if I could be the guy who opens the penalty box so I can go to work. And if I can go to work and be working at the King games, it would have been great. But knocking on that door the same time you did, boxing opened up.
1998, no?
Yeah, well, actually, but it started for me in 96 or early 97.
Yeah, likewise.
So it was a very arduous process because it wasn't run real well at the time, us trying to get on, very secretive, and you didn't know, there was no straight path, and I just kept pressing and pressing, and then got into the same class as you did in that 98 class. And
yeah, we're the
and
class
here we
of
are,
98.
man. And here we are, dude.
That's right, that's right. Man, we've gone to some places in the world: Croatia, Panama, Puerto Rico.
Don't be talking about Panama now.
I gotta tell them about Panama. So you gotta see this scenario here, guys. We're in Panama, so we're sharing a room, and
separate beds.
Yeah, there you go, separate beds. But we're in Panama, so I showered. I come out, I'm in my box. So now Jack goes in the shower. So I'm getting ready. I think we had a training dinner that night. Anyways, like 5 minutes into a shower, I hear whoa, mind you, I'm in my boxers, And Jack's always counting me because I've done a little prison time before. And all I said is like, Jack, are you okay? And you hear Jack saying, what'd you say?
Don't you fucking come in here, Ray. Stay out, man. The last thing I wanted was to be laying, I slipped in the shower, actually hit my head. And the only thing I could think of is I ain't letting Ray come in here and see me naked laying in the bathtub, man.
I mean, it was hilarious after the fact, but yeah, that was some cool times, man. That was Panama or Puerto Rico?
Panama.
Yeah, Panama, yeah. And another scenario happened real quick. We were in Puerto Rico, and dead in the middle of the night, I'm sharing a room with Pat Russell, the referee judge, and so it's like 3 a.m. I'm asleep, and I see Pat in the middle of the night, like go by in his tarantarams, his little white briefs there, going to the restroom. I thought nothing of it, so I'm asleep, and all of a sudden I turn around and Pat's getting in my bed. I'm like, whoa, Pat, what are you doing, man? I thought I was going to get molested there by a 60-year-old man.
You were looking forward to it.
Yeah, there you go, you know what I mean? But these are little funny scenarios that officials go through, But getting back to you, Jack, what was your biggest fight so far?
Before I get into that, I'd like to say something also. So what you guys don't know about Ray is he comes from really humble beginnings. He's had some challenges in his life, and here's some white guy from Brooklyn and some Hispanic guy from LA, two different worlds, but our love for boxing brought us together as friends. And together we have stood side by side with some really big battles and challenges through the athletic commission and through some scandalous other officials and things that have happened.
Cancer.
And you just got to understand that to get to where we got in this, Ray just did the World Championship fight, main event in the pay-per-view this past weekend. And to get to this level, it's not an easy task. And it's so many ups and downs, and both of us have supported each other and kept going when we didn't feel like, and we keep fighting the fight and we keep going. So anyway, now getting back to that question. So I've been fortunate enough to do some good fights, some big name fighters and stuff like that. But it seems like the fight that I've done that claims the most recognition, where people keep asking me questions about it and talking about it, was the Wilder Fury 1 fight.
Yeah, I actually have a question for one of the fans about that fight.
And the other fight I get a lot of questions on is when I did like 3 or 4 Andre Ward fights, and the one you were there, and he did with Edwin Rodriguez, La Bamba. It got to be a real spirited, ugly fight, and I had to take some action, so I get a lot of questions about that.
Oh, all right. So, and on that note, like I said before, Jack has these classes. He's our trainer pretty much in California and all over the world. But Andy Foster, he appoints Jack to train us every 6 to 8 months. We have all the officials need to attend. It's mandatory. And Jack's a great teacher. You know, he just doesn't go through the scenario, go through the book of rules, but he gives us scenarios. You know, so I appreciate him for that. And to me, what makes a good referee is his want to be better. And like Jack keeps saying, just keep trying to be better. When you get in that ring, he always tells us, be ready for anything, Ray, anything. And when you get out of that ring, be humble and go ask your peers. If Jack's not there, I'm going to ask Tom. But when Jack's there, how did I do, Jack? Is there anything I could have done better? And you know what? He's going to tell you. Whether you like it or not, he's going to tell you. And if you don't like it, that pretty much says a lot about you as an official, you know, because none of us are perfect. But the reason I'm having Third Man in the Ring is I want to show the fans, I want to show our commentaries what we go through, what we see, what we're trained to see, and what we're trained to do. But with that said, Jack, the fight you were talking about, the Wilder, what's the biggest question you get on that one?
Can I respond to something that you said first?
Go ahead.
So I want to give credit where credit is due and tell you one of the reasons that I like to make presentations and talk about boxing with the other officials and teach, for lack of better terms. When I was doing martial arts, my sensei, Louis Neglia, made us, when we reached brown and black belt, he used to make us teach his newer classes. And I learned by having to look at this stuff and be able to articulate it and explain it, I was learning it better.
Yeah.
And then when I got on the LA Fire Department, I got to tell you, it was a requirement on the LA Fire Department as a rookie. You would have to, all throughout your career, but especially as a rookie, every shift you were given something called a mini drill, where the captains would give you a piece of equipment. It was all scheduled out. Yeah. And you would be sitting in front of your peers who have 20 and 30 and 40 years on the job, and you had to explain that thing or that operation from start to finish. And you had to apply yourself to get a greater understanding or a complete understanding of what you were doing, and it made you a better firefighter. And I just took those things I learned in martial arts and what I learned on the LA City Fire Department and applied it here. And on the LA City Fire Department, we had a saying, train as if your life depends upon it, because it really does. And it's the same thing here with boxing. Train as if someone's life depends upon it, because it does. And train as if your career depends upon it, because it does.
Yeah.
So that's why I take it very seriously, and I'm really glad that you take it very seriously as well. And did you want to ask something about the Wilder Fury fight? The most asked question I have is...
Let's get to the question.
Yeah, why don't you get to that question?
If anybody wants to know, this is my bell here. And me and Jack agreed that when some fan writes in, calls in, and it's just a dumbass question, and then we're going to put up our little, you don't know crap about boxing, or my Mike Tyson laugh. You know, because again, guys, nothing personal. We're not trying to attack you, and I hope you're not trying to attack us, but let's have fun doing this. If you want to ask a question, anything. The other day, a guy emailed me and says, why didn't I give Cepeda a standing 8 count? That deserved that.
Absolutely.
There's no standing 8 count in professional boxing. You know, there isn't. But anyways, going back to Jack, so that's my bell. That's an introduction to bell. But going back to Jack, let me read the question here. I'll read that one. All right. This is about the Tyson Fury. And this comes from Javier Ordaz. And he says, Jack, in the Wilder Fury 1, why did you let Tyson Fury continue the fight even though he was clearly out and unconscious? You said that you saw his legs still up, but Tyson was sleeping and was clearly out. he admitted, he's saying that Tyson admitted it himself.
So
What
I
do you
don't know, I don't know this guy Javier, and I don't know if he's one of these guys that sit behind a.
Does he deserve the bell?
Not yet. We're going to give him a break, but I don't know if he's one of these guys that just like to say things negatively, but it sure sounds negative when he tells professionals what we should have done and what we saw, because the reality is, Javier, I'm sorry to say, you don't know shit about refereeing.
That's right, bro.
So, and let me explain. He wasn't out. And I would hope that you guys could slip in the fight at this time.
Yeah.
And for the fans out there, they're going to be able to watch that fight. I think they have a clip of the fight in real time and then in slow motion. I'd like you guys to understand that that was the 12th round of a World Heavyweight Championship fight where the action had been back and forth, but there had really been no extremely heavy damage. So they were both in decent shape as far as damage. But it was the 12th round. They both were exhausted. And when Fury got hit, he went down like a brick, but he really didn't fall and slam his head on the ground. He took the fall on his elbow and his shoulder, and his head jarred, but his head never hit the ground. He never received the secondary concussion, which a lot of times when you and I see that, fight's over. We know the fight's over. But based upon the history of the 11 prior rounds, the magnitude of this fight, and what Lou Filippo and Marty Denkin and all the guys who are predecessors taught us, you always want to try to count a champion out. You never just want to rush to judgment and wave the fight off. See what you got beforehand. So in this case, and we could talk about this all day, what a knockdown is and isn't, but when Fury got hit and he hit the ground, I signaled so everybody in the back row would understand I was calling a knockdown. It was a clean punch. I signaled down, which is like saying 1, and then got pointed Wilder to the neutral corner, picked up the time from the timekeeper, and when I turned back as I was walking towards Fury, I noticed instinctually his leg was up, his right leg was up. And I hope you guys can watch this on the video. An unconscious person, his leg wouldn't be up. An unconscious person, both of his legs would be down, his hands wouldn't be moving, and he'd be flat on his back. In this case, that wasn't it. The two things I saw was his leg up and him moving his gloves and his fingers a little bit. So I said to myself, let me see what I got. And as I moved in and was about to audibly say 3, as I was coming in, I saw his eyes wide open and he was looking at the sky, the ceiling. And as I got closer, he went like this and tracked me with his eyes, which told me right away he's not out. So I continued to count, and at 5, he kind of grunted and opened his eyes up, and by 6, he started rolling over to get up. And what the fans don't understand, and this is a great opportunity for us to explain this stuff to the fans, is a knockdown in boxing for a referee, or what a knockdown is. Any time due to a legal punch or punches when any part of a fighter's body other than the soles of their feet touch the canvas. Now that could even be if a guy or a gal gets hit, he or she goes off balance, their glove scrapes the ground. That's for us a knockdown. It's just, and that kind of knockdown is what we call a flash knockdown, and it's no different than an inside the park home run in baseball. It didn't go over the fence, but a run goes on the scoreboard for that team. So in this case though, it was a regular, serious, hard knockdown. Again, he was not unconscious, took the fall on his elbow and shoulder, and his head didn't hit the ground. And as he's getting up, what the fans don't understand is a fighter does not have to be completely up and totally erect with his hands up and ready to go for us to stop counting. Just like any time from a punch or punches, anytime any part of your body other than the soles of your feet touches the ground, you are considered no longer down once no part of your body other than the soles of your feet are touching the ground. And I challenge any one of you guys who are going to watch this film, as I was saying 9, just as I was completing 9, his hand came up and he was rising. He's considered up. So I assessed him, made him walk right and left, and we went back to boxing.
And you guys, did you notice how he told him, walk right to left? Jack, can you explain why you do that? And this is where Jack And Tom, Taylor, and these top officials that train us tell us what's the best thing for boxing. Even though it's a rule to assess a hurt fighter, he could have just called it off. But hey, on another note, that was an awesome fight in the history, guys, in the history. But Jack, explain why you tell him to walk right or left.
So I'm going to jump to something, but maybe we'll cover or not. So Carlos Padilla, an old-time great referee out of Las Vegas, made a statement the other day regarding that he purposefully stalled the count to help Manny Pacquiao. That's a whole other topic. Yeah. But back in the day when Padilla was reffing and when the great Joe Cortez, great Mills Lane and Richard Steele and all those guys were prominent on the top of their game, it was 25, 30 years ago. We don't do that anymore what they do. In the old days, guy would get knocked down. The guy would, as he gets up, we would be counting. If he stayed on the ground till 10 and you completed the word 10, it's over. If he got up at 8, before 8, we would get to 8, or they would get to 8. They would grab the guy's gloves and let him go. It was very quick, and what they found is it was very dangerous. They weren't really getting to assess the fighter's cognitive functions. If that fighter had the ability to intelligently defend himself or not, just by wiping his gloves and sending him out. And they found that some really high percentage, like 95 and above % of the fighters that got knocked down hard, when they got up and they wiped their gloves and let them go, they got knocked out very quickly right away. So the ring, and I didn't make this up, Ray didn't make it up. Thank God we have these guys. We have some wonderful ringside physicians. And they started teaching us 20 years ago, hey, it's not enough just to get that he reaches his feet. You got to test to see if he can follow your commands. You want to see that the lobes of the brain are talking to each other, and they're transmitting those electrical impulses to his limbs, that he can actually intelligently defend himself. So they used to tell us, after you get him up, ask him a question and then make him walk straight to you. Well, 25 years have gone by since that practice started, and science has gotten better and medicine has gotten better. And Dr. Paul Wallace and some other guys have taught us that any drunk can walk forward when they're concussed, because it's one of the oldest learned skills that you get when you're a little baby. You get up, the first thing you do is try to stand up holding the couch and then walk forward to your parents when mom or dad are calling you. And they found that it's not a really good assessment of the guy's ability to intelligently defend himself. So they said a better one is to actually make the fighter turn to the right or left to demonstrate that they have their brain, the different lobes of their brain are connected and talking to each other and responding, because it takes a different set of skills to be able to cross your leg over and turn your body than just stumble forward.
Your brain has to work better to do that. Exactly.
In fact, we, Solo Arbiter, my course, we dubbed this new thing that referees do, and we call it the referee sobriety test, because just like in if you're a police officer and you're driving down the street and you see a car driving erratically in a 25 zone by a school and he's crossing lanes, and that gives that police officer probable cause to pull that car over, right? For the erratic driving. Then if the police officer asks the guy to roll down his window, and when he rolls down the window, he smells alcohol, like you can't believe coming out of that car, and ganja and all kinds of stuff. That's the probable cause the officer is going to use to make that guy get out of the car and take a sobriety test. And they'll make him walk straight, turn around, and come on back. Well, us as referees, we're considering the entirety of damage that guy took in the fight, what round it is, how much damage he took prior, and then when he gets knocked down, we look at the quality of the knockdown, the guy's body language on the way down, how he fell, how he landed, more importantly, how he gets up. Is he so damaged that he's got to roll over, get on all fours, or use the ropes to pull his arms up? All that stuff goes into our computer, and that determines the level of sobriety test we're going to give him. Sometimes, like Ray will tell you, it's just walk to me, give me your gloves, let's go. Sometimes it's are you okay? Can you continue? Walk to the right, walk to the left. Because we really want to show the doctors and the commission and the fans that we're giving this guy a shot. We're going to stay close because it warrants it. He deserves it. But we just want to be sure he can intelligently defend himself before we let him go.
And one of the things we're taught as well, we're always connecting with the doctor after every round. We give him thumbs up. We're keeping an eye. I see what's happening. He's got a cut from whatever. And this is at the end of this show today, guys. I'm going to ask Jack to talk about his class sole arbiter. And but again, this is all the training that we get. And as far as I know, we're the most trained state probably in the world. Officials from all over the world came to your class, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, and anybody's welcome too. Commentaries, I encourage the commentaries because sometimes they rip us apart. I mean, that's for another show. Sometimes they say the commentary, hey, that's a 10-10 round. Is that a rule?
No, there's no 10-10. There's not supposed to be.
There's no 10-10 round.
Boxing.
There's no 10-10 round, you know? So with that said, yeah, I mean, anybody can come to this class to know what we are trained to do, what the rule book says.
And let me say something to what you just said. So I started this referees training program. It's called Sole Arbiter. You can find us on solearbiter.com. Learn about it. And what I want to really mention before we get into everything else later on is I called and emailed or texted a minimum of 40 top-notch commentators and boxing writers, so-called boxing writers, and invited them to attend this class free of charge.
Free.
And it's expensive. It's not cheap because I got to rent the rooms and it's expensive. But
still paying my wife back for that class, but that's another story.
You'll be paying your wife back forever, man, that she stays with you.
That's right.
I was the only two people that ever came to that class that were legitimate writers was Karen Tate that writes for different publications, and I'm proud to say Barack Bess from The Zone with the Ak and Barak Show, and you can please call him. He'll tell you that he learned so much about our craft that he didn't know before, and the level of respect he has for what we're faced with, the challenges we're faced with, is off the chart for him now. And to this day, there's a few guys that will have a situation, commentators that'll have a situation, and they'll give me a jingle and ask me what's right, what's wrong, and what do you think, and stuff like that.
Exactly. Well, let's go to the second question real quick, Jack.
Well, let me just finish with that first guy. So to answer his question, number one, he was not unconscious. Yeah. And what was the second thing he said? I know Tyson Fury said he was unconscious, but you got to understand, it's like the hype before the fights. They curse each other, and then and they fight each other, and then they're hugging and kissing. Tyson Fury's smart. He's thinking about selling his next fight, and it sure sounds a lot better if he says, "I rose from the dead like the Undertaker, and I was unconscious." But the reality is, please look at that fight that Ray will be able to show you, and pay particular attention to Tyson Fury's eyes. He was never unconscious. His eyes were never closed, and he wasn't out. And then for this guy to say to me, that
was a history-making fight, guys. Turned out to be an exciting fight as well.
And for this Javier gentleman to say, you should have, no, you don't know, and you don't know shit.
That's right.
So anyway.
Don't make me
Ray,
push the button here, guy. All right, here. This is from Pedro Bueno. He wants to know, Jack, to speak on the views of when you feel it's time to stop a fight. Let me answer this. In our class that we get from Jack, he has this pyramid that he says there's a pyramid there and when to stop a fight. And this is coming from me now. This is my personal opinion. Jack has even said it too before. You have guys that'll spend their hard-earned money and they might sit in that cheap seat, but they want to see a good fight. They don't want to see a referee over officiating. They want to see a fight where we let them fight, but at the same time, safety. Safety is the main thing, guys, and to enforce the rules. But so Pedro Bueno wants to know, Jack, when do you think is the best time to stop a fight?
Well, let me put the framework like this and reinforce what Ray is saying. So the most important thing as a referee that we do is make sure that the fighters are both safe. And what that means is when we get to a point where they can no longer intelligently defend themselves, we have to stop the fight. The second part of that is when a fighter has taken enough and been through enough rounds where he has no mathematical chance of winning on the scorecards, and maybe he's at a point where he has no puncher's chance, he's really just fighting to survive, and he's got visible physical damage. And the big thing, and we both have had this a million times, is sometimes the cornermen help us, and other times I don't know what the hell they're doing, and they wouldn't stop the fight if the guy's head got knocked off. And now Ray and I not only are fighting to survive, help that guy survive, but we're fighting his corner, who will keep throwing him back out when he really has no chance to win the fight. So when the fights get to those points, it's time for us to step in and get the guy out. Sometimes they have so much courage and they're such warriors, we have to make a decision to get the guy out. And what Ray was talking about with the pyramid that I came up with, is if this was the start of the fight, you wouldn't want to stop the fight right here. But as the damage is taking place, there comes a point in the time of that fight, right at the tip of the pyramid, where a guy has taken enough damage that anything past this is excessive damage. Yeah. So the perfect time would be right at the tip of the pyramid, but as professional officials, we could tell you that's not always opportune. It's moving, it's dynamic, it's changing, the guy's throwing back. Sometimes you can't stop it right at that perfect moment. So you all need to know that for Ray and for ourselves and Tom Taylor and Russell Mora and all the great officials that are out there, what we strive to do is get within that perfect moment, 10% before that moment, or 10% after. There's what's called the 10% triangle. You guys might think we're stopping a fight early if we stop it a little bit before the perfect time, and some of you guys might think we stopped it a little too late if we let it go 1 or 2 punches extra, but it's impossible for us to stop every fight perfectly every time. But as top professionals in the fights we're working, we have to stop the fights within that 10% triangle. Just before it's perfect, when it's perfect, or 10% after. Anything before that 10%, we stopped it too quick. Anything after that 10%, we probably let it go too soon. And the other thing that Ray and I and the guys try to do is educate all of you, and what I like to call set the table. We like to sell the call. We're not cheating, we're not selling the call or selling anybody something. We're basically setting the table. You guys are the fans. And the commentators, I think, too, you know. You're sitting around, you're at the fights, or you're sitting around at home and you're drinking beer and chatting and you're excited about what you're watching. And you're losing track sometimes of everything that's going on, whereas our focus for 3 minutes at a time, and even in the minute rest, is on nothing but those fighters and safety. So we kind of see quite a bit more than you do, because we're watching body language. We're comparing that body language from the moment that guy walked in the ring to where he's at this fight, 6, 8, 10 rounds later. So when we see a guy deteriorating and he's starting to take excessive punishment, we're gonna start setting up the call, setting up the stoppage, but what we're really trying to do is educate the fans that we don't like what we're watching. And we're gonna bring in the doctor, we're gonna go in the corners between rounds, and we're gonna assess them, we'll bring the doctor in there. We'll do things to let the fans know that we're not happy with what we're seeing, and if this guy doesn't improve upon his current game plan, we're going to have no choice but to stop that fight. Right?
And with that said, Jack, it's like a 10-rounder, and the guy, it's just a one-sided fight. Why let this man continue taking a vicious beating? Even though he's tough, he's still fighting back, but he's lost every round. And I'm not even judging, I'm only a referee, but you could clearly see he just has no advantage. He's losing every round, and he's just too tough for himself. And that's one of the things.
I could give him a couple of examples. So if you guys want to see the kind of fight that where the guy was such a warrior, and his corner wasn't stopping the fight, and it was a tragedy.
Take notes, guys.
So a couple of years back, a fighter named Mago Abdusalamov had a fight, and he ended up collapsing in the dressing room or maybe in the cab on the way to the hospital and going into a coma, and he's never been the same. Same thing, just recently we had, I can't even pronounce his name, but it was in Cleveland, Ohio, I think the fight was, where a fighter took quite a bit and he ended up having to be in induced coma because he had a brain bleed. So we as referees, we could see this stuff where a fighter is taking concussive blows. Look, all punches probably lay some concussive blows on you, but we see some very damaging punches, and it's sometimes very hard for us to stop a fight when the other fighter is active. If the other fighter's throwing punches, say the fighter who's getting hit, if he's active, it makes it tough for the fans who aren't or watching on TV, even the commentators who don't, some of them who don't know jack shit about boxing. It makes them tough to understand, but I want to explain it to you right now. Activity doesn't mean effectiveness or competitiveness. If a guy is standing, a fighter stands like this with his left foot forward if he's a righty, and he's throwing and he's turning his body into the punches. When you got a fighter standing with his feet parallel and he's just throwing like this, even if he's throwing 150 punches around, their arm punches, it's not competitive. And I just want the fans not to confuse activity with effectiveness. And if a guy has lost every single round, he's taken quite a few concussive blows where his head snapped, or he's been dropped, or hasn't been dropped, or he's been staggered on his feet. And if think about this, even if he's taken 5 or 6 of those really hard concussive blows per round, after 5 or 6 rounds, you're talking about 30 concussive blows. And just because he's got a chin like a rock and it didn't put him down, those punches might have put every other fighter down that you know. Well, that's when we come in, and that's when we got to protect these guys by setting up the stoppage and trying to pull that guy out of there.
Yeah, exactly. And
we like to call that, Ray and I and Russ Mora came up with the term competitive, non-competitive fights.
yes.
So they might look competitive, or the guy might still be in there, but he has no effectiveness in what he's doing, or very little.
And mind you guys, we hear things in the ring that not even ringside could hear. When these fighters, you guys that have never boxed but maybe been in a few street fights, I mean, I lost more than I've won, and believe me, when you're in there exchanging and you're getting hit, I could hear these boxers with, you know, and you know what? They're in pain. They're feeling these blows. So again, if you're in a 10-round fight and you know, even though you're not judging, refereeing, but you know this guy has lost 6, 7 fights, you got to set it up. You got to call in the doctor. Hey, doc, I'm thinking about stopping this fight. I even tell the fighter, you know what? I need more from you, bro. I need more from you, you know?
And another part of that, what you guys don't realize, is we do something we call the flyby. In between rounds, we pick up the scorecards and we will walk to both corners. We won't bother them. We'll just kind of look in and listen. And I can't tell you, I'm sure Ray had this as many times as me. I see a fighter getting his ass kicked. He has no answer. He's losing every single round. He's physically damaged. He's sitting on the stool like this, exhausted and beat up. And I walk into the corner just to listen and look. And his coach is telling him, you're doing great. Just keep doing what you're doing. We know we got to get that kid out of there, because that corner man doesn't have a complete understanding or enough understanding about boxing, and he's going to let that guy get killed. The other part of it is Ray and I can tell you that there's, you know, especially young Hispanic fighters, now the Ukrainian, European, Russian fighters, they will never quit if their father's in the corner. They will die on the sword, and we've got to be conscious of that too, that they're willing to absorb a lot more punishment because of the pride, and they don't want to fail in front of their parents, I guess.
Well, I mean, and I say this respectfully, the Flores fight from Stockton, great kid, good amateur. His fight prior to this, his father was in this, father saying, I want to stop the fight. And, no, Dad, no, don't do this, don't do this. That's, you know, call it dumb, call it stupid, that's the machismo in us. You know what I mean? That's the machismo in us. And you know what? he lost the fight. He survived, but this is what Jack's saying. Some of these fighters, they rather give up their life than to quit. You know, and I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying it's so much wrong, but this is what we have to deal with. And this is what this podcast is about, guys. Third Man in the Ring. You're going to hear from Jack. I'm going to have MMA referees, more boxing referees from Las Vegas. But if you got to send in your questions, and you could hear from what we see, guys. But I got one more question, Jack. And this is from, oh, shoot, it was on my message about clinching. When is clinching?
It's clinching legal.
Legal.
Yeah. So that was a great question that John Lipari sent in.
Thanks for sending it in.
And he wanted to ask, is clinching legal in boxing? So let me tell you something. Clinching is legal. And I'll try to explain this to you guys so you'll understand it. Clinching is an offensive technique used to navigate the ring. It's different than holding. Clinching is if a guy is on the ropes and he's taking too many shots, he doesn't want to be caught up on the ropes or in the corner, he clinches up with the other fighter, gets his back off the ropes or away from where he was, lets the guy go and restarts the fight. That's a legal technique. It's an offensive technique used to navigate the ring. Holding is where a fighter just physically grabs the other guy's arms or grabs his body and pulls him in so tight that the other guy really can't punch in a legal area. And that's his intent, is just to stop the action because he's tired or he's hurt and stuff like that. So when do we take action on it? When would we call a guy out for holding, or what will you do? Well, there's times when we want a fighter to hold. So one of the instances, if a fighter's hurt, fighter gets dropped and he gets up and he's in trouble, or he's against the ropes and he's taking a lot of shots, we want a fighter to hold in those situations. When they're in trouble, they got a few different options. They can run, they can hold, they could take a knee, they could foul their opponent, they could spit out their mouthpiece, they could bob and weave and fight back. But one of the choices we want from them is we want them to hold, because it demonstrates to Ray and I and the other referees that he's aware of his situation, he's intelligently trying to defend himself, and he's just trying to buy some time and wrap up. And we won't take a point right away from a hurt fighter that's holding. We'll get in there and we'll break him, and his responsibility to us is we say stop and we say break, he's got to let go. If he maintains the clinch when we're trying to get him to let go, we'll probably give him a warning, and if he does it again, we probably will take a point. But if a guy is holding because he's trying to survive and we break him, and he holds again because he's trying to survive and we break him, after about the third time, we'll say, okay, that's enough. You gotta show me something. You gotta improve your position. You can't keep holding. You're slowing this fight down. But it won't be on the first time or the second time the guy holds.
That was awesome. But I want to address this referee Padilla. In my opinion, I know I'm speaking for me and Jack.
Well, I don't know what you're going to say. So
well, he said he admitted that he cheated, and he said it. I cheated for Pacquiao and gave him a long count. Me, and I know Jack's the same, Tom, all the California officials, with all the replays and the social media, bro, I love my career. I've been blessed from the life I grew up in, being state raised, coming to this. Like Jack always says, look where we're at, Ray. With that said, guys, I wouldn't sell my career for nobody. I wouldn't cheat for nobody. I wouldn't give nobody. And I know Jack's the same way. Tom, Jerry Cantu, Rudy Barragan, all the officials. We love this career so much. It's a privilege. You could get your license as an official, doesn't mean you're going to work. So we're blessed. Again, Jack has done some of the top fights in the world. So speaking on my opinion with Padilla, that he admitted to cheating, that's him, but that's not us.
And what's sad about what you're saying is, and it's already happened, what Carlos Padilla said, he painted the rest of us with the same brush. Now, anybody who sees something thinks that we all cheat and all that stuff. And it's just not true. And what I don't know what Ray's going to tell you, but I'm pretty sure what he's going to say is there has never been anyone in professional boxing, promoter, sanctioning body, commission, or anybody that's ever asked me to cheat for them or asked them to give a guy a break. Never, anything. All they've ever asked me to do is make sure that the guy is safe, and they've criticized me when they felt I've stopped it too soon or they stopped it too late, but no one's ever asked me personally to cheat. And I just want to respond. I got schooled about Carlos Padilla, and it left a seed of doubt in my head. So it was egregious. It sounded very egregious what he said, but the reality is, I found out he's an 88-year-old man that's been out of the limelight for over 20-something years. English is his second language, and Philippine is his first. And I just don't know if he was, his cognitive abilities at the time, if he said it, was he kidding, or was he just, did he have a dream and he's 88 and he's kind of a little confused and say it? I don't know. There were a few things in that fight that they did him different in those days. There were 3 things that he did, that he admittedly did, that could be construed as cheating, but I just don't know, because it's an 88-year-old guy, and I don't want to rush to judgment and say, yeah, he cheated. And his daughter wrote a letter to the WBC expressing some of their concerns. Like, it sounded almost like they were saying they're having trouble with him at home. I don't want to say dementia or Alzheimer's. I don't know, but when I'm 88, I'll let you know.
All right.
What I'm saying is,
I didn't know that part. So with that said, okay, I just seen what I seen, and like Jack said, he painted us with the same brush, but because of his age and if they're having trouble, God bless them, I guess, But I know right here, and the officials I know in Las Vegas, and the officials I know, man, this is such an awesome job. Being in these big fights. And I wouldn't cheat for nobody. And again, no promoter has ever asked me to cheat, so.
I want to ask something too. I'm sure you've had this experience, and I want the fans to know this. It's an extremely great challenge as a guy my age. First of all, it's a blessing and a privilege, like Ray said. We got the best seat in the house. We're in the middle of the ring. Man, he refereed Mike Tyson last year. And we're refereeing great fighters, legends, Bernard Hopkins, Antonio Tarver, Mike Tyson, all these great guys, Roy Jones Jr., as well as the legends of tomorrow and today, were, Spence and Porter and Ugas and all these different guys that are out there fighting today, and Lomachenko and Triple G, whatever, right? We got the best seat in the house, and it's such a privilege that we would never in a million years give that up. And for those of you who have opinions that are strong about us, if you go to a restaurant and you eat out 3 days a week for 10 years, you might have the ability to recognize good food, but I could tell you, you're not a chef, man. You're not a chef. You don't know what ingredients to put in. You don't know what size to chop them up. You don't know how long to heat it, when to add the other ingredients to it, and make a presentation of why the food tastes the way it tastes. And it's the same thing with refereeing and understanding what we do. If you're sitting behind a keyboard and you're making negative comments about us, sitting in your home real safe, get off your ass and try to become a referee.
That's right.
Do something about it. Don't criticize other guys doing their job, and a very difficult job, because this is why Ray and I want to tell you, some of you guys don't know shit.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's funny that you say that about the food. I make the same dishes for my 7 kids when they were growing up that my wife makes, but they always said, you know what, Mom, Dad can't cook, because I just put everything in a pot, and then. But my wife did it with skill. She knew when to do it, when not, when to put this in, when to put that in. So yeah, you're right.
She put the time and effort to, as she was going along, taste everything to make sure it's going to come out the way it's supposed to at the end. And that's what's missing from a lot of commentators, writers in boxing, and in fact, even cornermen. Everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame, and we see a lot of guys trying to get into boxing that really don't belong here, and it's a shame, because their fighters don't have a chance of winning because they don't know anything, and they're going to get hurt. So wish there was a better way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have a son, Adrian Corona, and you know, when he gets in that ring, I get afraid. I get afraid. His mom gets afraid, and you know, he's my youngest is seven kids. You know, 5 boys, 2 girls, and it's a hard sport. There's a lot on us.
And I'll tell a funny story. So Ray and Arlene asked our boss, Andy Foster, to have me, because they trust me with his safety, and I'm honored to have me referee Adrian's fights. And I reffed one or two of his fights, I can't remember, but after like the first or second one, first of all, it's a lot of pressure because I love Ray and Arlene, and I'm afraid of Arlene, to be honest with you. She scares me. But all kidding aside, I was hearing Arlene yelling, jab, jab, and I kept thinking she was saying, Jack, like I was doing something wrong, and it was distracting, and I realized I can't referee anybody that I have such a close relationship with their parents, because either way, it would turn out bad if something happened and he got favored, because I believed I did the right thing. So I said, I'm sorry, I'm not refereeing Adrian anymore, man. That's right.
Well, hey, fans, we're coming to a close. I hope you enjoyed it. Send me emails if you want somebody you want me to interview. Other officials. Again, we have actors, politicians, but I want to thank my friend Jack Reiss. Can you real quick tell him about the arbiter sport,
Yeah, okay, so
class?
Thank you for that opportunity. But can I say something to fans first? Is that, hey, I encourage you, and I'm sure Ray does too. There's no question that's off bounds with us. There's no question that's too difficult. Believe me, we've been in more tough spots than answering your questions. So if you got tough questions and you want to know something, send them in to Ray. He'll address them. He'll get people to address them. I'm just respectfully requesting, when you ask a question, don't belittle the guy you're asking the question of, because again, you know, what are you doing? What are you putting up to of yourself? Are you putting yourself out there to be something? It's pretty snug or smug sitting behind a computer, you know, 150 miles away from doing it.
Monday morning quarterback.
Yeah, so just ask, you know, why we made that decision, and we'll gladly tell you what our thought process was that went into that decision. And the second part of that is, so I felt, because I get quite a few, over the years, I've gotten quite a few calls from referees of all different levels, especially the newer guys, that, you know, have questions. Hey, I had this situation, what would I do, and stuff like that. And I realized,
which we all do. We all call Jack after a fight.
There's lots of guys call lots of guys, and I appreciate that. But my point is, I recognize there was a need for some kind of formal education for us, because a guy in Iowa or Nebraska or Michigan got trained differently than the way we got trained out here. We're very fortunate, like Ray was saying, we're trained the best. And the reason for that, the fans, you guys might not know, we do more boxing shows in California in 1 year, typically, than the next 3 states below us. So you could take Nevada, New York, and Florida and put those all 3 together, and they don't do as many shows in 1 year as we do. And with that goes a lot more responsibility and training. It's necessary, and throughout the years we had informal training with the Marty Denkins, the Lou Filippos, and Pat Russells, and guys like that, Jim Jenkin, that taught us, Dick Young. And now it's becoming, under Andy Foster, it's becoming more formal, where he's putting out formal training every couple of months, and we look out scenarios together.
Andy Foster holds you accountable, guys. Believe you, he holds us accountable, man. Especially
in judging. If you come to this state from another state and you're a phony or fraud and you got here on politics, you'll be exposed, because if you're way off base in a fight or in a round, Andy's going to ask you publicly, why did you see it that way, and explain yourself. And we love it. It rises, gives us rises us to a higher level. But getting back to it, so I saw the need for this better formal education for referees, and I put together this class. I actually was given the outline by one of our close friends, Big John McCarthy, probably the greatest combative sports mind in boxing and MMA out there, and he put together, because he saw the need when MMA was breaking onto the scene, for a formal education, a training class for officials, and he gave me that formula, and I put it together for referees based upon his outline, but we just made it for boxing. And I have this class, again, it's called solearbiter.com, SOLEARBITER.com, and you can look us up on the website. I don't have a class plan right now, but in 2023, I'm looking for either in May or in September. And I want to sincerely invite anyone who wants to have like a boxing experience, like, you know, like going to a baseball umpires camp or a baseball camp or something like that. You're more than welcome to join. You don't have to be a boxing referee or an amateur boxing referee.
Please, I'm begging the commentators to go. Please.
There'll be no charge for the legitimate commentators, but for the fans, I got a lot of expenses to pick up. But if you want to have a fantasy camp and you want to see what we do and learn what we do and have a great boxing weekend among some of the great minds in boxing, the last class we had, well, I had Ray and Russell and some other guys in the first class. Last class, Tony Weeks and Celestino Ruiz joined us, also with a bunch of great referees from Florida and Chicago and places that do quite a few fights, so please consider it.
So with that said, guys, thank you for joining us. Email me if you want me to interview somebody and I could reach out to them, any ideas of what I could do better. This is my first one. But I just want to give God all the glory. I thank God. I thank my beautiful wife, Arlene, my 7 kids, and my 6 beautiful grandkids. Billy, who set up he's a professional podcast guy. If you want to hook up your podcast, find it, Billy's information on my Instagram. But thank you guys. God bless. Anything, last words?
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate the opportunity, Arlene and Ray, to come and be on the inaugural
Thank you,
show.
Jack.
And I love you. You know that.
Love you, homie.
All right.
Again, anybody want a New York accent, reach out to me so we can interpret that. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.